It is time for our Bulldog Conversation. I'm Brad Radice, and I'm joined by Dr. Rusty Yerkes, an associate professor of finance here in our Brock School of Business. Not just finance, but you also teach economics and quantitative analytics. Dr. Yerkes, thank you for joining us.
Oh, my pleasure. It's great to be with you today, Brad.
I want to talk about a pretty special visit that you and some students just went on across the country. You got to sit down with one Warren Buffett, one of the most successful business people on the planet. Just walk me through how you guys get an audience with Mr. Buffett.
Yeah, it really started about 3 years ago. I wrote Mr. Buffett a personal letter, and I knew that he hosted universities. I had been on one of those trips as a graduate student about 10 years ago, and I wanted my students here at Samford, our students at Samford, to have that same experience because it's something that I would never forget. And his assistant responded immediately. We were put on the waiting list, and 3 years later, I get an email saying that our number had finally been drawn, and it all came together.
And as you were describing it, we could have him on campus, but his schedule is so crazy, we have to go to him. But as you described the scenario, our students are 10 feet from him, if not closer.
Yeah, so just imagine that if I invited Mr. Buffett into my class to guest lecture for 2.5 hours, we went there and we took the students into a very intimate setting, a very small room. There were 8 universities there: Harvard, Stanford, Rutgers, Boston College, Samford, a few others, and about 150 students. And he had their undivided attention for 2.5 hours. Doing Q&A, but I would say there's more A than Q, and dialogue back and forth, and he'll answer any question. He doesn't see the questions in advance, and he talks about business, he talks about life, how to be successful, and he really sees it as his opportunity to give back, to help. He feels like he can really influence and make an impact on young people that will help our country in the future.
And I was talking to a couple of the students that went on the trip, and they had mentioned how, hey, I've read books on Buffett. I know who he is from afar, but boy, to sit in the room with him and to hear him saying the things they've read about is really impactful.
You know, a lot of people know him because he is in fact one of the wealthiest people in the country and in the world, and but to see him in person and to interact with him, you realize he's human.
Right.
And perhaps the thing that I admire most about him is his philanthropic spirit. You would think that, well, maybe if you're that wealthy, it would be easy to give away essentially your entire net worth, but I imagine that was a very difficult decision for him.
Right.
And what he has created, not just for himself, but for many other shareholders in Berkshire Hathaway, the impact that that's going to have, around the globe, primarily for humanitarian efforts, is tremendous. And so he's a human being. He's very humble. His standard of living is quite low.
Right.
He lives in the same house he lived in since 1965.
How about that?
He drives a Cadillac. He comes in and he told the students, read voraciously, and you'll be successful.
And I think that's kind of the ironic thing about it, of you're sitting here in a room with Warren Buffett, but his principles are so simplistic, and he's built, as we looked up, one of the biggest companies in the world.
Yeah, the 7th large by market cap, names like Google, Microsoft, Amazon, he's in the same company. But he'll tell you, your company is going to be successful if you delight your customer. Don't just satisfy them, but delight them. Have a margin of safety in your investments. Buy good companies at a fair price, not fair companies at a good price. And so if you read his annual reports, he has all these, but it sounds like common sense, but he has a very consistent pattern of diligently reading, researching, studying, and then executing his philosophy over and over and over again, and it's proven to work.
And lastly, just talk about the experience that our students get. I know it's one, whether it's Warren Buffett or somebody else, it's an experience that you guys strive to give to the Brock student?
Yeah, I think it's something unique, and you can look back and you can sort of pick individuals or certain experiences that maybe were a motivating factor in your life. And I know for me, when I took that trip, it's something that it's unforgettable, but it also forced me to want to strive for excellence. And I hope that the same message comes across with our students, that they see somebody who's excelled and done well and created and given back to community, that they can do the same.
Good deal. If you want to see more about the trip, head to samford.edu, look under the videos page, and you'll see a video that we did on the Brock School of Business visiting with Warren Buffett. Dr. Rusty Yerkes joining us here for the Bulldog Conversation. More football action comes your way right after this.